Hey everybody, welcome back to The Collective. We have another fantastic show for you today. I am super excited. We got Doc Kate here, we got Kelly, Sayre here, we got, whoa, somebody's audio's going crazy. Let me just play with some stuff here. Hold on one sec. Oh, I don't know what's going on. Anyway, we are super stoked to get this started. We have, as I said, Doc Kate, Kelly, another Kelly. We got Alana here. We got Sean here. We are going to have a fantastic show. We're going to be talking about entrepreneurship. Now, while I am excited, y'all should be too. Make sure you are hitting all the buttons, like the show, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, do all the good stuff while you get your emails whenever we go live, which is, of course, Fridays and Wednesdays. Now, let's get some intros down and out of the way, and we can dive right into the first question. Kate, I'm going to start with you. Quick 10 to 15 seconds. Who are you? Where you come from? All that good stuff. Hit us.
I am a doctor of neurophysiology, and I run a couple companies. One is a military medical R&D company, and the other is a coaching company. Currently in Montana. I consider the world my home. I don't really have an actual home. I've kind of lived all over the place, and I will be moving again in a couple of weeks. So, yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Moving across the country, right? Going out to Boston, something
Yep.
like that area. Ooh, it's going to be a gooder one. Those big moves are a lot of work. So good luck to you on that one. Sayre, how about yourself? Hit us up.
Sayre, Kelly Sayre. I own the Diamond Arrow Group. I prevent trauma and save lives through situational awareness training for the everyday person. I hail from central Minnesota, but I'm traveling a lot. So right now you're catching me not at home, but I've been an entrepreneur since 2017 on my own. So
nice.
Looking forward to this.
Awesome. This is going to be a great convo. Kelly, how about yourself? Quick rundown. Who are you? Where you come from? All that good stuff. Give her.
I'm going to unmute.
Good.
Is it unmuted? No?
Yeah, you're good. Yeah. And now you're muted again. I'm gonna come back to you in 2 seconds here. Alana, why don't we get to you and then we'll come back. There we go. Alana, you go ahead and then we'll jump back to Kelly.
You know, you always start with my least favorite question. What do you do? I don't know what I do. Every day I don't know what I do. But I'm Alana. I'm Alana Stott, 3 kids, multiple businesses. I'm a security consultant, nonprofit consultant, general fixer of everything. That's it.
There you go. See, you do know what you do. Perfect. Kelly, let's try that again. How about yourself?
Am I good now this time? Is it working?
You're good now. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm Kelly Altschwager. I own Western Workouts, a coaching company. I'm a nutritionist, sports performance specialist, and rider fitness expert. I specialize in working with rural and ranching demographics, competitive equestrians, but I work with all demographics of people, and I have been in business for myself since 2012.
Bam. Nice. I like it. Sean, how about yourself? We're having mute issues today, and this is fun times.
What the
there we
heck,
go.
bro?
I don't know, man.
We've got the mute gremlins going on today. Yeah. So I'm kind of in line with Alana as an entrepreneur. The classic case of sometimes I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'll do today. I don't know what I'll do tomorrow. I actually don't know what I did yesterday sometimes. And that's the beauty of being an entrepreneur, is the adventure. And so though as a group, we'll probably have a chance to have a few laughs and talk about the things that we found challenging as entrepreneurs and the successes we've had as entrepreneurs and the things we've learned along the way. But I'm in line with Alana. I consider entrepreneurial as a lot of shoulder shrugging, even though I've been at it a long time. I don't have maybe enough answers, and I'm looking for some answers in today's combo.
This is going to be a good one, and I can tell y'all I'm the baby entrepreneur in the crowd. I just started my first business called The Collective. That was in 2022, so this is all brand new for me. So I'm going to be learning a lot, and I'm going to open with this one first question: Why entrepreneurship? Why not just work for somebody else? Why not do the standard everyday lifestyle? Why go into business for yourself? Kate, I'm going to start with you. What do you think?
Ooh, tough to go first on this one. I never really wanted to be an entrepreneur, to be honest. It's not like something that I was sort of chasing. It kind of happened because I saw a need. I was working for a different company doing basically combat casualty care research, trying to create medical devices for the battlefield to help people like my brother was an Army medic at the time on active duty. And I saw this opportunity to be able to create better products for people like him to do his job better and really help people save life, limb, and eyesight as much as possible. And I was working for this company doing that. And I saw better ways to do it. I saw that it started to become maybe less of a priority for this particular company, and the resources weren't there. They wanted to go in a different direction. And my vision for what it needed to be and where it needed to go was completely separate from theirs. And so I liked the stability of working for another company and having somebody else manage all of the like headaches of running a business, right? And just showing up and doing my job and going home. Although it really wasn't that, because I kind of work 24/7, even when I'm working for other people. But this was one of those instances where I was like, this isn't going to go where it needs to go if I continue down this path, and I'm not happy just showing up every day. And so my business partner, she was a huge influence on me. She's a serial entrepreneur in the med tech space. And she and I were having conversations, and we were like, you know what? I think we need to do this on our own. I think we need to start our own thing. And I had never run a business before. This was like 2017. Had never run a business before, no experience. And I'm determined and I'm stubborn and I'm a hard worker. And I felt like if nothing else, I could figure it out. And so the two of us decided to launch this company, basically continuing the work that I was doing for this other organization and doing it in our way with the vision that we had. And there's so many stumbling blocks there, but it was sort of like, I can't not do it. It was really my why at the time. And years later, I got into coaching in the mental, physical, spiritual health space within the soft community first, but then, all active duty military, and then veterans, first responders. And that also was not something I had ever set out to do and didn't want to do. But I saw this massive gap, this massive need. My friends weren't okay. They weren't doing well and they needed help, and the traditional channels weren't working. And so I was like, I have to help. If I can, I need to. So that started this path down, the coaching direction. So kind of a second job, if you will, second business that I never really intended to get involved in, but I couldn't not help people. And I wanted to formalize it so that way I could turn it into an official coaching practice, get the training I needed, turn it into a business, because I was really doing it for free at first and just kind of helping people as much as I could. And it was taking up so much bandwidth that I didn't have, it's taking time away from a job that was paying me to do work for free to help people, which I loved. And I was happy to volunteer for a while. And then I really decided to turn it into a legitimate business. And that also kind of was born out of the same thing of like, I just can't not do it. And I've been doing both of those ever since. So that's sort of and I've picked up a lot of other types of entrepreneurial work. Like once an entrepreneur, I feel like you're always thinking in that way. So I have certainly consulted on a ton of projects as well in the business arena, especially with government contracting and coaching. So I do a lot of consulting work as well. But that's generally the impetus behind all of it.
I love it. When you see a hole, you got to fill a hole. I love that. Kelly, how about yourself? Or let me rephrase that. Sayre, how about yourself? There we go. I knew I'm going to make a mistake one way or the other.
It's okay. So I had the fortunate opportunity, my high school, your senior year, if you had enough credits already taken care of, you could take entrepreneurship class. And it was really cool. The first half of the year, you had to have your own either a partnership or a sole proprietorship. And then the second half of the year, you could keep your own business going, but then there was also a class business. So you had to learn how to work and divide and conquer and all that. So I signed up for that class because to me, I was like, well, that sounds like fun. That doesn't sound like school, and I fell in love with it at that time. Plus I had family members, extended family members that had their own businesses and multiple different avenues or realms, industries. And I got the entrepreneurship bug in high school because I loved seeing a problem and being able to immediately fix it. There was no, red tape, or you've got to go through the channels, you've got to get permission. Like if you just saw something that needed to get done, you could jump in and get it done. And so I loved that take action and the aggressiveness of it and the challenge, because you didn't know what tomorrow was going to bring, what challenge you were going to face. And in my class, my partnership in high school was actually making candles. And, it was interesting because that was really labor intensive, but you had to get creative. Like you could buy these really expensive colors to put in the wax, or you could just throw a crayon in there and that would make the whole candle that color. So we would literally take a crayon box and be like, well, what color, for example, would you like to use? And they'd pick it out and then we just mark that and then throw it in the wax later and make it. So it was being creative. It was being able, like, how can we work around this? How can we save money? All of that kind of stuff. And then went into the real world and got a job. But that entrepreneurial bug never left. The problem is what I really liked to do was run events or plan, be kind of organizing big events, which were typically weekends and nights. And I just knew that I didn't, in my head, I was like, I don't want to work weekends and nights. I want to find a 8 to 5 Monday through Friday entrepreneurial business to run. Right. But I kept going back to that, and that was always in the back of my mind, no matter what I was doing. And then fast forward to 2015, I was doing sports tourism, had run a couple big events, which were great fun. I got to scratch the itch of being the planner and the organizer and the, put fires out. They'd be last minute. Oh crap. Now what do we do? That kind of challenge excited me, and being able to solve a problem with basically your wits and being resourceful, again, was really satisfying to me. And I was in a coaching executive peer group, and the business owner was like, hey, why don't you come work for me? Which was ironic because at the time I was like, well, I'm going to go back to school for entrepreneurship. And really what I found was, just do it. Don't take, why go to classes to learn how to do it if you just do it, trial by fire. And so that was 2015, went to work with her. And then I haven't gone back to corporate or having a boss. And so my why is just, I found the situational awareness, which I was really passionate about. You talked about find a need, fill a need. And there wasn't a model out there. So that was a huge challenge for me. So it scratched that that itch for the challenge of, okay, well, you're going to have to chart your own course. So you have no idea what tomorrow is going to bring, and you have no idea there's not a specific strategic, way to do this, which leaves me to be very creative. And so it's kind of all the things that in my past that I loved combined into one.
Love it. Love it. Kelly, how about yourself?
So ultimately, and it's going to sound, I think it sounds maybe a little dramatic, but it's the truth. Ever since I was young, I was just very comfortable leading. And I knew that somehow, some way, I would be able to make a difference in the life around me. I just didn't really know how. And thankfully, every job I had worked that was for someone else really provided me a lot of autonomy and freedom to lead and take over the positions I was in a way that suited me and suited the people I was leading. And it kind of got to this point. I was actually, oddly enough, I was an assistant trainer at a performance horse barn. I was 8.5 months pregnant with my second son, and I caught my shadow in the arena sand, and I was like, what the hell am I doing? Like, I'm loping 5 horses a day, and I'm, massive, waiting to pop. And I was like, I don't like doing things at a minimum or lesser average level. And I was like, man, when I have my second son, I have my kids because I want to be in their lives and raise good young men for the future. I also really enjoy, molding these young horses and leading them to their performance future, but I can't do them both really well. So I need to decide what I can do well while still being a mom, because working has just always been something I enjoy. It provides me satisfaction and fulfillment. And same thing, find a need, fill a need. But working at this in this environment, I was watching people invest hundreds of thousands of dollars into these incredible horses and their care and their tack, show fees, but not in themselves. And I thought, man, I could bring everything I love in life together into one component of everything I do and make it my career and make my hours and be a good mom. And that's really where Western Workouts was created, was rider fitness, primarily. Sports performance is my specialty. So kind of combining the two and taking a really unique, not yet at the time ever been used approach to rider fitness, but also just to athletes, to people in the rural and Western communities in the industry, and bringing not just the physical end of it, but the mental end. No one talks about how the challenges of life, the challenges of ranching, so it's just this whole, this is how I can change the world. This is how I can make people's lives better. This is how I can fill my own cup while I'm filling others and leading them into their fulfillment and their success. And it really just snowballed and never stopped. And it's still not. For me, it's been making a difference somehow, somewhere, some way in the lives of others so they live a better life. And that was really kind of where that whole entrepreneurial part came from. And even I worked at a custom handmade cowboy hat company forever. I still help them sometimes. And as silly as it sounds, helping individuals, with something that they're really excited to invest in, like it's providing an experience, providing support, and saying, like, I've been through the ringer, I've been through the highs, lows, ups, and downs. I still will be. Let me share what I know. Let me be honest about what I don't know. And for me, not only is it just being able to make the difference in the lives of others, which I believe in the ripple effect. And I think as an entrepreneur, no matter what it is you do, you can create that ripple effect in your industry, in your company, in the lives of either those who work for you or the lives of those who use your services or your products. And it allows you that true ability, creativity, curiosity to create that ripple effect, whatever your business may be. And it can be pretty heavy sometimes. It's a lot of responsibility. It's so rewarding, and it's exciting to know that whatever it is you're doing is making someone's life better somehow, some way. And then it allows me to be a student for life. I love learning. I love doing things that scare me to death. I love doing things that challenge me. And this was just a surefire way of bringing all of that into just one cohesive unit that I now get to call my life.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. Alana, your thoughts on this?
I always find it quite interesting, the word entrepreneur, because I think it does get banded about into very different areas and to different people. I think it is a mindset. It's a certain type of people that want to live like an entrepreneur, because a lot of people will look at it and be like, oh yeah, I want that. But actually you don't want it. Nobody wants to be like up all night and working 7 days a week and missing time with the family and having all the moms in the playground look down on you because they never see you there, like, ever. But I think that, if I take like my dad, for example, my dad was a bus driver for 35 years. He left the military, he became a bus driver, he drove his bus for 35 years, zero interest in overtime and doing any other work. He wanted to go on that bus, leave the bus, go to the pub, and that was his life, and he loved it. I started working when I was 11. My mom was a single mom, and if we wanted things, we just had to work for it. So I started working in a cafe, a railway cafe. I got paid in food, and then I learned about customer service and various other things, and then went into other jobs. I was in telesales, telemarketing at 13, and that was when I first learned about commission money. So I would get paid purely on what I would sell. And I loved that. I loved that angle. I was like, okay, the buck stops with me. How much I want to earn is up to me here. This is great. And then I remember I then moved on to like door-to-door sales. So I would go around knocking on doors, selling people things. And I remember in the middle of Scotland, in the middle of winter, you'd be knocking on the door, and I used to get jealous of the people in the house. And it wasn't so much like the food you can smell and the warmth you could smell and everything that was coming out of the house. It was more that they were content to do that. Like somebody could be happy just to be, 7 o'clock at night, be sat having the same dinner every night, or the dinner choices every night, and being home with a family and having this routine, and maybe 2 holidays a year, and these simple things. And my head could never get into that contentment of life like that. My head was always like, right, what's next? What can I do next? What can I build on? And it was just a constant churning. And I think it took me a lot of years more to understand that that was who I was, rather than like trying to fit into what everybody else was telling me that I should be doing and how I should be doing it. It was actually, this is who I am. So when it comes to the why, it was just who I was always going to be. And I was lucky enough to then be able to develop it and work on it and say, well, actually, I can do that with my nonprofit side of things, and I can do that with my family, and I can just adjust it to everything that I'm doing and live that life. And my dad always says to me, like, if you don't have stress, you're not happy. And it's so true. I need to be fully in that phase all the time.
That's awesome. I'm sure my wife would say something very similar about me. Sean, you got any thoughts on this?
I do. I've got several because I've been tracking what the ladies have been saying here, and I made some notes, which I rarely ever do. So some common themes here, starting up at the top with Doc Kate. She wanted to do things her way, which is a huge flag for you're going to be a good entrepreneur, or you're going to be a terrible entrepreneur once you realize that your way isn't going to work out for anyone. So you have to have that independence of spirit where you think, or you've got to have some sense of confidence either in yourself or some blind faith that your way is going to be the way that's going to change it for others, the way that's going to help others in ways that others haven't been helped in the past. You've got to consider yourself as a novel solution sometimes and trust that your way is the way for someone out there who needs a way. And so I really love that. You've got to believe that you want to do it your way. That is truly an entrepreneurial spirit. Kelly, entrepreneur in high school, she got the bug. I never had that luxury of understanding. I couldn't even spell entrepreneur in high school. I don't even know if it was a word in my generation. But I think it's why I scribbled that down is because Kelly learned or got the first taste of entrepreneurial spirit in school, and it never left her. And so that first introduction to an entrepreneur is really important, or the introduction to the program called Entrepreneur 101, if it's a weekend course or whatever the case is, or if it's your first time meeting an entrepreneur as you sit next to them at the bus stop, that if that entrepreneur is cool, they're going to create another entrepreneur. But if that other entrepreneur is just blasé and in it to try to sell you a seat on the bus that you're about to get on, and they're just trying to take from you rather than collaborate with you, then maybe you'll never ever start to become an entrepreneur. So the power of entrepreneurial introduction is important. And it sounds like Kelly got a powerful or an introduction that resonated with her in high school, which is what we should all want. That first introduction should resonate with us. Moving down to Kelly, she wanted to bring things together that she loved and to provide solutions that she didn't see anyone else creating. And she was trying to do that to make others around her better. That's literally like a t-shirt that I'd wear every day. That defines my sense of entrepreneurial spirit. That's why I do entrepreneurial things. I look around me and I see no one doing what I think is the solution. And then I start slamming out my solution. Doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It doesn't have to be anything. It doesn't have to be categorized. It just means that at my core, I like doing things different than most. And so I put it out there and see if it flies. And so that, again, is key to the entrepreneurial spirit. And then finally, Alana, starting at the age of 8, what an introduction. You've probably been in the game. I don't want to say you've been in the game longer than I have, because then we'll have to start dating ourselves. But you've been in the game long enough that you understand the entrepreneurial game. And I think that's really critical, man. Like I put in my post this morning about entrepreneurial spirit or the act of being an entrepreneur. Like there's a load of social media ads and personalities out there that are pitching how to be an entrepreneur in 24 hours. Take my course, you'll be an entrepreneur. You're going to be a winner, baby, at the end of the weekend once you finish the course. And it is not so. 3 months, you can barely spell entrepreneur. 3 years, you're just getting your feet underneath you as an entrepreneur. So all of the ads and courses and how to become an entrepreneur by the end of the weekend, throw that stuff through the window. It doesn't count for anything. What you do need to do is align yourself like Kelly did it in high school, or Alana did it 8, or Kate, etc. Every one of us aligned with something and then dug our heels in and got to work. And all of that work that we did doesn't amount to anything until you're adding up multi-years of experience. Because that's the blood, sweat, and tears of entrepreneurial life. If you aren't in it long enough to realize that you don't like the bleed rate to get out of it, well, you'll dabble with entrepreneur for the rest of your life and you'll never have really been in it. When you look down and you see the blood, the sweat, and the tears gathered around your feet, now you know you're in the entrepreneurial game, because it is a tall price to pay if you're going to do it all the way. And it's not just a cost on you. It's not just your body, your mind, your spirit, your etc. It's those around you. Your family will suffer more than if you weren't an entrepreneur, because it's long, hard hours. And if your family doesn't understand the fact that you're basically raising another child called your business, whatever it is that you're in, it's not for every family unit, and it's not for all friendships, and it's sometimes not even for your community, because you might be a handful as you're trying to create something that the world has never seen. So I wanted to capture some of the ladies' thoughts, and I also wanted to throw in my idea that all of their work that they've done as entrepreneurs, it never comes easy. And maybe in this conversation, we'll talk about the personal costs in order to reinforce the idea for people out there who want to get in this game that the entry into it might be easy, but somewhere down the road, you'll be paying a steep price for sure.
You bring up so many good points there that I don't even know where I'm going to start on this one. But the funny part about this whole thing, I wrote down want the result versus the work. And I think this is pretty consistent throughout not only everybody's here. And I just want to point this out too. I think this is maybe the third time Sean's ever taken notes. So good on y'all, because that's awesome. You made Sean take notes. But this idea of, wanting the results versus the work, we've talked about this with the military or special operations. Everybody wants to be an operator until it's time to do operator things, right? Everybody wants to do, everybody wants to be a cowboy until it's time to cowboy up. It is the work that it takes to get to a point where it doesn't look like you're working is enormous. And I want to get into that first. So I want to, as Sean was saying, getting into the cost. What has it cost you? What have been some of the major pieces of your life that you've had to either let go of or completely reorganize, or some of the relationships or whatever it is that you've had to remanage, reassociate in order to be an entrepreneur, in order to be a successful entrepreneur throughout your life? And this one, I'm going to start with Sean, and then I'm going to work my way up. So, Sean, what are you thinking?
Well, I've paid all kinds of prices personally, but I'll talk about the people around me. So I guess I could have said that my entrepreneurial spirit ruined my first marriage, but it was actually tier 1 that ruined my first marriage. When I left tier 1, I was still kind of in a relationship that was doomed to fail because the damage had already been done. And if it hadn't been done in tier 1, it probably would have been done when I became an entrepreneur, because I was a freaking handful, man. I didn't know what I was doing. One morning I was a black ninja warrant officer in tier 1. And then that evening I was a civilian with no transition understanding at all of what comes next. I entered from tier 1 into entrepreneurial world in a matter of hours. And my pace in the entrepreneurial world was my pace in tier 1. I freaking smashed. And there was no time to sleep. There was no time to rest. There was no time for niceties. There was no time for anything other than crush. And so I would have lost my first marriage to entrepreneurial life if it hadn't have been my tier 1 life. And so the lesson that I learned out of that was the way I like to live life isn't for everyone. And those around me know that. And therefore, you have to choose wisely. My second wife, my favorite wife, she's something special, man, to put up with a dude like me. Because not only am I a handful, everyone knows I'm a handful. And I don't care that I'm a handful because I have certain ideas. There's certain things that I want to do. I want to change the world in different ways that others haven't. And with that comes a certain amount of, not maybe ferocity, but a certain amount of velocity. And it isn't for casual people. It's for special people that I need in my life. And so my wife is a special person to put up with me, as are some of my friends. Chance is a perfect example of this. If Chance wasn't the dude that he is, we wouldn't have a podcast because he's had to put up with my entrepreneurial ferocity. I want a podcast that is better than anything we could imagine by yesterday. That's just who I am. And so the costs are personal. The costs are familial. The costs are further than arm's distance acquaintances. If you're wanting to do what you want to do at any cost, but along the way you learn that you've got to dial it back. You can go all in for many years at Warp Factor 3, but as you see the carnage lining up alongside of you in the ditches, it's time to reassess and dial it back, which was probably my biggest lesson in entrepreneurial life over the 30 years. Modulate the pace so that people around you can accept your pace. Might have been my biggest lesson.
I love that. You said you used to be a handful, and I was going to be like, used to? But yeah, it is I love the pace. It's keeping me moving forward. Otherwise, I'd be sitting on my couch doing nothing right now. So I appreciate it. I really do. Kate, how about yourself?
Man, I definitely have had probably costs in almost every arena of life being an entrepreneur. The most obvious of which for me in the businesses that I've run, and I'll focus mostly on my military medical R&D company. The most painful has been the financial cost, because we started this company years ago. And what, our business model is I write grants. I get Department of Defense or NIH funding to develop a product, hopefully get it to a commercial stage, and turn that product into something that the military can use, that civilian EMS can use. And it's medical devices. We recently are getting more into maybe like the potentially pharma arena. But anyone who writes grants knows that you don't always win them. They're a ton of work. And when you do win them, it's sort of hurry up and wait until the funding comes in. And then there's a set amount of funding and a set amount of time. And if you don't align these grants up well, or the funding cycles are terrible as they were during COVID, or they decide to change funding priorities from year to year, and you're expecting that, the cash flow situation, especially when you're doing medical work where you have these extreme costs each month, that can become really challenging to navigate. And there have been multiple periods of time where my business partner and I haven't been able to pay ourselves for 6 months at a time. And thankfully, I have some other sources of income, like I can consult and I can coach, but those haven't been my primary areas of focus over the years. So when you lose the primary source of income for 6 months at a time, that is extremely stressful. So there's a huge financial cost that is associated with this, where you just sink so much of your own money into it, or you're just not getting the income that you thought you were, or it's unpredictable from day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year. And that is an extreme challenge. And if people have discomfort with uncertainty, but especially financial uncertainty, entrepreneurship is potentially not for you, because I think most businesses are that way, not just my business and the model that we have. I think most are. So that's been challenging. And then because of the type of work that we do in that arena, and then also the coaching work, the need never stops. There's always more work to do. The grant deadlines, I can't control that. So for grants, for example, or a report that's due to the government, or something along those lines, or a client in need. I mean, there are times when there are some deadlines that are non-negotiable, that no matter what you have going on, if you're moving across the country, or you have a sick family member, or you're sick and ill, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Some of those deadlines, you have to sit there and work and get it done. And it's long hours and at crunch time. And that is not fun. I hate it. This is not a fun part or a glamorous part. So the time cost is real, where there are times when you're just working constantly and there's no getting around it. You have to do it. For me, with the coaching stuff, I've found a good balance where I can attend to clients in need, but not sacrifice my own personal well-being by bending over backwards to accommodate always those in need. I can kind of provide other resources to help people be sufficient to help themselves until I have the time. So I've created a good balance there with the coaching. But with grants, I mean, those deadlines are what they are. Government reports are what they are. There's no getting around it. So there's a cost in the time. And then because of the time cost, kind of speaking to what Sean was saying, it's the personal relational cost is tremendous, because I have spent the better portion of my adult years working so hard because of what I believe in, and the work I believe in, and the ways that I want to make the world a better place and make an impact, that there have been so many times when I've said no to events I wanted to go to, trips I wanted to attend, with family, with friends, conferences even I wanted to go to that were somewhat work related, but mostly an excuse to see friends. And I couldn't always go because I had more work to do, and these deadlines that were just non-negotiable. And so that has been hard, because I am a very people-oriented person. I love social connection. It's so important to me. Relationships are so important to me. And that has been maybe the most painful of all of it, is just the relational cost. And I would say that, kind of similar to Sean, like over the years, I've certainly gotten better at recognizing that there needs to be a balance. And so when things are out of my control and I have no choice but to deal with it, I deal with it. But when I do have some control and can build more opportunity, more space into my schedule to prioritize relationships, I am far better about that these days than I used to be. But I literally used to let work run my life. And I don't think it's sustainable. I don't think it's healthy for me personally. I do know people who thrive in that kind of environment, but the way that I'm wired and how I want to live my life, I've had to recognize that hasn't always been healthy and good. But thankfully, over the years, I'm getting older and wiser, and have realized what that balance is. But again, with entrepreneurship, I think that sometimes it is out of your control, and you just have to buckle down and get it done. So,
yeah, that is a consistent thing throughout a lot of entrepreneurship, and all the entrepreneurs I know feel the same way, in that there are non-negotiables. There's just points in time where you got to work, and too bad you can't go to the party. Too bad you can't go out. Too bad you can't do these things. There's work to be done. What are your thoughts on this, Kelly? If I can get you up here. There we go.
There we go. So speaking to a lot of what Kate had to say and finding that balance, it's amazing how easy it is, especially like in a coach setting like she was speaking on, to almost lose yourself in it, because it is so important to you. It's so important to help these people that are relying on you to support them and to guide them and teach them that and I recently, actually, I just got back earlier this week from a little trip. There's a small trapper cabin up in the hills a couple hours away. And I took my dog and shut my phone off and was gone for 3 days up in the Medicine Bow Mountains because I needed to fill my cup. And that was one of the hardest things for me to learn is, yes, I know you can't pour from an empty cup. And I think most entrepreneurs know that. And there's a time and a place just to grind hard because it has to get it done. Absolutely, no question. And you have to be ready and willing to do that. But when that cup gets empty, it's literally nobody else's job but your own to refill it. It's not on your spouse. It's not on your friends. It's on you to know and be willing to be aware of and take action to fill that cup. Especially in a coach setting, it's easy to get really resentful and just that like heavy overwhelm of like, oh my God, one more text, one more call, one more email, but it's not that person's fault. That's what you showed up for them, is to do that. So it's really having self-awareness, I think is, it's so needed as an entrepreneur, and burnout exists. And I do think, there, like she was saying, there are some people that thrive in that setting, but everyone has a breaking point. Absolutely. Everyone has a breaking point. So, you can kind of lose yourself and your sanity if you don't really pay attention to what you need, so you can again better provide to these people that are relying on you. And maybe whether it's your, again, product, service, doesn't matter. And it's no different kind of than like in your family, right? Like for me, raising, my boys they're my world. Like I take raising young men for the future very seriously, and I want to be there for all of their things. And so that work consists of this, all of their events, because they're little stud athletes, look like all of this. And then I have to pick and choose what comes after that. And you have to decide what you are and aren't willing to forego, because you're going to have to forego plenty. And if you're not willing to do that, again, if you want that 8 to 5, 9 to 5 paid time off doesn't exist. So you have to really know what that balance looks like for you mentally, physically, financially. I just had a really good conversation with a friend of mine. Unfortunately, I'm very good at flying by the seat of my pants and doing really well. And that's fine and dandy to a point. So I've really had to make it a point to, because I will put everything else before me. So as silly as it sounds, my time to go lift, my time to go hike and run, and my time to even work my horses. I put on rider fitness clinics, and they have to show up. Those horses have to show up for me. And God bless them. I can pull them out of, the pens after weeks off and go do things, but that's not fair to them. Me not being on the top of my physical game isn't fair to me or the people that come to the So I've started scheduling in, like at this time, I'm getting these 3 horses worked. At this time, I'm getting my lift. And that goes right along with, client appointments. And it almost sounds ridiculous because it's what I do for a living, helping others. But it's so easy to lose yourself in it. It's so easy to lose yourself in what you're doing that you forget to take care of you. So that has been a huge eye-opener and life lesson probably in the last year for me. And now finding a point where I feel like balance is a little more realistic. But it takes just as much effort to find the balance as it does to go crazy.
That is a great point. I'm gonna write that down. It takes just as much balance to go crazy as it does to find balance. It's fantastic. Alana, thoughts on this?
Yeah, mine is really a two-sided coin about what it's cost. So I just say, like, when I was younger, I was all about business and earning and adapting and doing different things. And it was always something different. Like my entrepreneurial journey has never been like I want to do one thing and work on that one thing, even with multiple businesses on it. Like it's branched into a million different things. So when I met my husband, I think I just bought my 3rd property. So I'd moved into property development at that point. I'd done like bank management and debt collecting and various other things. And I'm now doing these property developing. And he's a tier 1 special forces operator. And then he gets injured. So naturally part of what I do is I'm going to problem solve and I'm going to find a new way into this. So I'm like, okay, well, he wants to have the same mindset as me. Like he's going to become an entrepreneur too. And I think what I didn't realize then was that there can be two types of entrepreneurs. There can be the money-making entrepreneur, the guy who wants to go out and make money and do the things, but there can be the service entrepreneur as well. And that's somebody who can find multiple ways to help people and multiple branches of how he's going to do it, and it can adjust. So it's the same mindset, and it's the same thing, that no problem's too big and no problem can't be solved, but it's not about making money. I feel like I probably got both those mindsets in a way, but I was trying to, okay, Dean's now out, he needs to come into the civilian world and do these things, and he's confused about how to do it. And I'm like, right, you need to make money. This is how you do it. And I'm trying to teach him to do that. And he absolutely hates money. He hates anything to do with any of that sort of thing. He loves helping people. He loves fixing problems. He loves, give him a set of orders and send him somewhere to do something. He's fine, but ask him to do the invoices or do any of these things, then absolutely not. But now I'm pregnant with our first daughter, and I'm kind of leaving him to do all these things. So everything that I've done, I then put aside. And I remember she was close to 12 months old at the time, and I was just looking out into the ocean at one point, and I went, I don't know who I am anymore. Like, I've built Dean and I'm doing all these things for Dean, and I've kind of forgotten my side of the journey to be mum, which I loved, and I loved her and I loved everything about her, but I wasn't being me anymore because I was doing it all around Dean. And it took me quite a while to really come back to who I was. And then we worked together, and then we done multiple. I would say it then took another 10 years before Dean and I actually sat down, and Dean was like, I don't want to do it, like this entrepreneur stuff, like, because it's almost like this natural thing, like you've gone tier 1 and you're going to go and become an entrepreneur. And he didn't want that. He didn't want to do this like money-making leadership style of things. He wanted to go and help people. He wanted to, do evacuations, and he wanted to do all these things. So, okay, well, how do we blend that? And then it took a while for us to say, well, actually, that's what I'm good at. I'll go and make the money. I'll do this, and I'll build this. You do this. And then, then we have second child and third child. And I think in the stage that we're at now, it's like Dean is doing way more of the start. Like, he doesn't touch the money side of it. He doesn't do, like, yes, he can earn money, but that's really not his lane. He's out doing the things that's helping the world be better. And I'm doing the full money making side of it. But here comes our third daughter, and I'm now fully working, the same amount of hours that I would ever work. And we've got a nanny. So luckily the nanny's in the house, but the other day Harley hit her head on the table, fell back and started crying, got up, and the hands went up and they went straight to the nanny. And like, that's like a dagger in the heart for any mom. Like, it's like the worst feeling, but at the same time, it's the best feeling, because I know I've chose somebody that she loves and she adores and that she's safe with and that she feels like she can go to even when I'm there. But as that kind of mom guilt comes in of like, oh my God, she's going to her and she's doing this. And then even with Dean, she'll kind of run to Dean now because he's spending all this time with her that I haven't got the time to do. But then I think, well, Molly, there was one year Molly got to see him like 20 days out of a year. And now Harley's literally like running to him. So it's this whole balance thing of, yes, you give things up, but then you get other things, and it's trying to work out that where to kind of bring it all together. And yeah, I don't know. I'll probably be 80 and still trying to work out if that balance is right and I've done it right. And every day it's, no, you're doing this wrong or you're not getting this right. But I'm also fully blessed in being able to say, I've managed to build it in the way where, yeah, I can see her. If I walked into that room right now, I could still see my baby. Like, the kids come home every day and come and tell me their stories and what they've done. I still don't think they know what mum does. As I say, mum doesn't know what mum does. But I think that I'm getting to the point that I'm happy with the blend. And I think the only thing that I truly, truly sacrifice is probably just time with friends. Like the actual, like, am I going to go out and have a glass of wine with my mates tonight? Like, that is like way down at the bottom of, I think probably the last time I saw Kelly was the last time I had a drink with a girlfriend, because it's just not something that's of priority. And I love my friends and I love the time that I do get to spend with them, but it just doesn't come up high for me. So yeah.
There's a number of costs, especially with friends. They become very, I'm not going to say expendable, but they're always kind of there. So like, you can always, when you have time, hopefully you can get to them, but it's not, it is a challenging balance every single day. Sayre, how about yourself? I'm going to keep coming at you with that.
So no, and to echo everyone else, the king that came to my head is, we talked about the never content. The idea of, for me, the idea of being mediocre or average does not bring me energy. Like I think maybe I was 20 and my mom was so frustrated with me. She's like, are you ever going to be content with what, like, I would achieve something and then I'd be like, what's next? And she just wasn't that way. And I was like, be content. Like, well, that sounds really boring. Like, what does that mean? How, already at 20, I should just be like, I'm good. I've achieved everything I want to achieve. And so, that kind of, to me, ties into that friends. That's where I went with the cost of entrepreneurship, is there's really great humans that I know, but if they don't understand entrepreneurship and what it takes, or the mentality that you have in order to continue to be an entrepreneur, or what drives you and gets you up in the morning and gets you excited. Some people just don't understand that. And I used to get frustrated at people who didn't understand, but now I just realized that's just not their mentality. It's not in them. And so whether it's family or friends, especially in the last 9 months where I've really gone through a big transition and I'm focused on, okay, who am I? What do I want? How do I want to go? Like, there's been some things that I've been able to finally kind of put closure to. And now the world is my oyster and I get to really create my life. What I've come to realize is there's friends who, don't understand that entrepreneurial or that driven mentality. It exhausts them. And so who you surround yourself, I think, is really important on your entrepreneurial journey. And what I've found is that when I actually kind of took a little bit more inventory of who my closest friends were, who am I going to, those few hours that I might have to, quote unquote, relax, who am I going to spend that with? Well, I want to spend it with people who still we're going to have the good conversations. We're going to have the deep conversations that, get my brain going in other ways, or get the creative juices flowing, because that improves my work mind or my work place. And I don't want to be made to feel guilty. Like, gosh, if I'm surrounded by someone who's always, doesn't your brain ever shut off? Are you always talking about work? And I'm like, it doesn't. I'm sorry. Like, I understand that there needs to be a work-life balance. And that's also part of why I know that I want to be an entrepreneur, why this is what I want to do, because it actually fuels me. It doesn't drain me. And I understand that for other people, that type of mindset would be draining. And, to Alana's point about having wine, well, if I'm going to take time to have wine and relax, I'm going to sit down with other like-minded individuals where the conversation isn't small talk, isn't gossip. It's actually like questioning, being curious, really wanting to dig into the meat and be challenged. Like, because maybe I'm thinking one way, and if I don't have a conversation that doesn't maybe challenge my way of thinking, then that's not where I want to put my time. And it leads to being misunderstood. And some people get upset and feel like you're slighting them if you don't want to spend time with them. And that's hard, because it's like, I like you as a person, but no offense, point blank, you're not helping me be a better person. And that's who I want to be around. There's the saying of, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And so I want to surround myself with people who challenge me, even when it's friends, even when it's supposedly an off, I'm not working, my work-life balance. Well, actually, entrepreneurial is all consuming. So I look at that as a lifestyle. And so I want to surround myself with people who get that and who understand. And yes, there is a burnout point. Yes, there's a breaking point. And that's where, but I can't always predict when that's going to come, or when the creativity is going to hit me, or when all of a sudden an idea is going to hit me. And then it's like, okay, I need to go write for a little bit. I need to write all of this down, or I need to go for a run and I have to process this, and it's not always on a schedule. It's not, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. It's a Saturday night all of a sudden, or it's a Sunday morning, or wherever it may be. So having the right people around that get that understand is so important. And I've had to get to the point where I'm okay with people being upset or misunderstanding the way I live my life in order for me to be successful, in order for me to keep doing what I love. It's kind of like, I love you, but peace, you do you, I'm going to do me, because I need the friends that you see them once a year and you pick up where you leave off. The friends who need to be in connection, contact every day. I just don't have space for that. I joke, my sister and I, our family doesn't talk. I talk to my parents maybe like once a quarter, and it's not good or bad. It's just how we were raised. We were all busy. And so people who are like, want to call every day and how's it going? I'm like, great. Okay. I gotta go. And so I think to me, that's the cost of entrepreneurship, is being misunderstood by people. But what do you want? What fills your cup?
Yeah, this is a pretty standard thing I hear pretty regularly, is that it's not a question of the balance idea between work-life balance. A lot of people envision it as like a 50-50. You're going to work and you're going to have life. But really, in reality, especially as an entrepreneur, you're going to be 90% work, 10% life, maybe. Maybe, if you can get 10% on that.
Well, and with my kids, kind of to other Kelly's conversation, I have 2 boys as well. And last week, before I started this long, time away of traveling, my oldest was like, Mom, maybe you should get a job and then you don't have to travel so much. And I'm like, hey, you're right, buddy. I might not have to travel, but then I might not be able to go to your events during the day. Then I might not have the flexibility of, hey, it's a nice day, let's play hooky and go to the beach or go to the lake. I don't have that flexibility. I go, there's trade-offs, bud, and that's part of it, is having those conversations and saying, yeah, there is, you could look at it that way, that it's, not a 50-50 or I can't shut it off. But then there's other times where it's like, I can multitask and say, okay, well, we're going to do this. And then while we're there, I'm going to read, or I'm going to do this. So,
yeah, it's finding that time, right? Wherever you can find it. Sean, I'm going to come back to you on this. You got any thoughts on anything that's been said so far?
I do. It was something that Alana said, and I think it needs to be repeated. And I wish more people would pick up what she just put down there a bit ago. And that is, I'm going to kind of paraphrase, either you're a money entrepreneur or you're a service entrepreneur. And I know those are big, broad titles, but I think it gets the point across. It's something that I hadn't considered when I entered into entrepreneurial life. I didn't know there was actually 2 states of existence, money and service. I just knew that I was going to start working, doing what I wanted to do, and I'll figure it out as I go along. But along the way, actually, when I became a computer system engineer, which was one of my earlier careers, I realized, hey, I can make money in this career. I wasn't making any money in Tier 1 special operations, I can assure you of that. And so once I entered into the career where I could see no ceiling on the amount of money I could make, I turned it into a new sport, a new hobby. I love a hunt, man. And I think that's part of being an entrepreneur, is you got to have some hunt in you. You got to be a hunter. You can't be a gatherer. That's for an entirely different style of life. An entrepreneur is a hunter in my books. And the better you hunt, the better the entrepreneur. And so I had some hunt in me, and I decided to have fun with the frickin' hard work that I was doing. I was going to set a loose target as, I'm going to try to make 6 figures this year. I'd never made 6 figures. Up until the time that I said to myself, I'm gonna. And once I finally made 6 figures, what happened? Now what? What, I make 7 figures, 8 figures? What's the point? I was over that chase, because that just didn't feel like satisfying to me. But then switching completely over to service, where you're making nothing, that somehow felt like far too charitable. And so I ended up kind of in the middle between chasing some money, but chasing some service. And I probably lean more towards the service than the money. As the example, when I became a high performance race coach, I tried to charge the least amount of money possible for my athletes. I wouldn't charge them an extra $1. If I could have done it for $1 cheaper, I would have. Because I wasn't in it for the money during those 15 years. I was in it for the service because it made me feel like I was helping people. And that was my payback. So you've got to understand what your payback is. For Dean Stott, maybe his payback is the sense of satisfaction that he's helped another human being. That's worth all the money in the world to me sometimes. But the other piece is feelings don't pay the bills. And so you need someone either on your flank that's looking after that sort of stuff, or you need to figure that out yourself if you're a solo player. So I was a solo player for a while, and I got by because I was a solo dude. I didn't need a whole lot of money. But then when a family came along, you need more money. Unfortunately, my wife, who's a professional engineer, made way more money than I did. I didn't know that at the time. I didn't actually know what she did when we started dating. But it turns out that she has had a good salary. She retired last year. She had a good salary, and she floated our family for quite a long time while I pursued service entrepreneurial stuff. So all along my life, I would suggest it doesn't much matter who made the most money, my wife. But along the way, we figured it out. And sometimes, I'm not going to say it was super duper easy, by the way, because the friction between a proud man who is trying to do good things for the world, who feels like he's also not earning his way on the cash side of things, it's hard on your head sometimes, or at least it was hard for me. Now, maybe I'm the only one in the world as a man in that situation who struggled with that. But I know that's not true because I've talked to a bunch of guys and they also struggle with it as well. And I don't know why that is, but I did until I shook my silly head and got right with the program and realized that that was dumb, Sean. And that was then, this is now. But I think maybe all men go through that. Maybe all women go through that. I don't know if it's a man-woman thing or it's not at all. But at some point for me, when I wasn't making what I felt to be enough for the family, I struggled with entrepreneurial execution, even though I knew that it was the right thing to do at the time. And so your partner is key to you as an entrepreneur, not only as to what you can accomplish physically out there in the physical world, but how you sit with yourself internally in your own internal world. That's food for thought.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to get into that in a second. Now, Kate, you got to take off here, so I want to give you a quick second to give us some final thoughts, anything at all that's still bubbling in the back of your brain, or anything you got.
Yeah,
left.
I mean, honestly, thanks for having me on today. It's been so great chatting with you guys and meeting everybody and hearing everyone's story. And I guess I would just leave with, I'm so impressed by and inspired by all of everyone on this the call today, because one of the things I've noticed is that for every number of people in the entrepreneurial space, there's that many flavors of what entrepreneurship could be like. And everybody does things slightly differently. But I do think that there's some wiring, there's some givens that you have to be okay with to be an entrepreneur. But beyond that, there's so many different flavors of it and ways to do it. And you have to figure that out for yourself. What is that balance, that work-life balance? Is it about the money? Is it about the service? There's so many questions, and each person has to answer those for themselves. In comparing your version of it to others, in some ways can be motivating and inspiring, but in others can really distract you from your own mission. And I think that is really important to pay attention to in a world of social media and comparisons and society telling you need more. You see all these people doing all of these things, making tons of money, and you feel like, well, I work really hard and what I'm doing is important. I should be on that level. And I think that everybody is going to have to wrestle with those questions and those answers for themselves, and stay true to whatever that sort of true north is for you, that guiding star, that azimuth that you're following. Make sure that it really is coming from you, because that'll be something that can take you through to the finish line if there ever were one in our world. But if you're doing it for other reasons or chasing other people's versions of what that is, it's going to lead to failure and burnout. And I think that ultimately staying true to your own self is, although hard in the world today, extremely important. And I just really appreciate everybody sharing how they've done that here. And I'm sorry I have to leave, but it's been a pleasure. And I hope to follow up with everybody on this call because you guys are all awesome. So thank you.
Our pleasure having you, Kate. Don't worry, I'm going to get you back on the show again at some point once your move is all done and you're settled. But I really do appreciate you coming on here, and good luck with all of the stuff getting pulled out of your house right now.
Thank you very much. All right, see you guys.
Soon. The point that I wanted to actually get into goes exactly into what she was talking about, is that, you know, when there's this old saying, be careful what you wish for because you just might get it. And we were talking about this a little bit before in the green room before we got into the conversation. But, you know, a lot of people want to be an entrepreneur. A lot of people want to be their own boss, or they want to be this, that, or the other thing. But once they actually get there, they go, oh no, like this is more than I thought. This is bigger than I thought. This is harder than I thought. This is going to take more. It's going to cost more. It's going to take longer. Sean, I think you mentioned this in your post earlier too. It's going to take longer than you think it is. It's going to cost twice or three times as much as all these things, right? And I guess really what I want to ask you guys is maybe advice for those that are getting into the game or thinking about the game or wanting to develop themselves as an entrepreneur, get better. You know, the question really I have is, how bad do you want it? Because what you ask for, you're going to get, and it's not going to be what you think it is, at least in my mind. So, what are you guys' thoughts on that? What advice would you give to those either getting into the game or trying to better themselves through the game? Alana, I'm going to start with you. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that exactly what you're saying, be careful what you wish for. It's going to be a lot. You have to be ready for that journey. And I think I spoke with James Lawrence recently. He's the Iron Cowboy. He done like 100 Ironmans in 100 days. He's done 50. And we were talking about being game ready. And he was saying that in his life, he's always game ready. He's and I love the way he kind of put it, because I thought that's exactly what it is. Because when opportunities come and knocking on your door, if you're not ready, when you open, oh, well, actually, I can't do it right now. I need to do it a bit later. I need to try. I'll do it another time. Like, it's not going to wait for you. Like the door knocks, and if you're not ready, it's going to wait, knock on somebody else's door. It's going to do it again. So whatever it is that you're looking for and you want, you need to be ready for when that moment comes. You know, if you've said that, you've put it out there, you're manifesting that you're ready, and when it happens, you're not fully ready to jump in. And that can be in any of our worlds. You know, like Kelly, I'm sure, like us, we've got grab bags ready. The earthquake goes off, we're ready to go. But how many people do you know are actually ready for when that happens? Like it's not happening. The other thing is I'm a complete yes man, as in, like, I'm not a yes man to my friends. I'll tell you exactly what you're doing wrong when you're doing it wrong. But I take on anything. Like, Alana, can you do it? Yeah, I'll do that. No problem. And then we'll just work it out later. You know, as I say, my entrepreneurial journey has been in so many different ways. You ask me what I'm doing, it's 500 different things at once. And Dean's just done a Netflix show, which comes out this week and then or next week. And while we were doing the negotiating for the contract, and we were back and forth on different things and trying to figure out ways in which we can get a little bit more into the angle, we ended up down the rabbit hole of talking about nutrition. So when Dean was cycling the record-breaking thing, we couldn't get anybody to do Dean's nutrition, and it was a kind of, you know, it wasn't like endurance training, it wasn't strength training, it wasn't, you know, we were doing 100 days of 200 miles a day cycling. We had to find a nutrition plan that was going to work in that way, and nothing worked. You know, we would talk to the Sky team doing Tour de France, and nothing was fitting exactly what he needed. So I was just like, right, I'm going to study nutrition. I don't know much about it. I know a little bit about it. Let me study and find out. And then I went on and I done advanced nutrition, and I got all my qualifications and stuff. But then I was able to give him his plan and work out exactly what he needed. So then now I'm speaking to Netflix, and they're saying, yeah, well, we need this and we need this. We need a nutritionist. I'm a nutritionist. I'll do it. And then I was like, I actually can't remember anything that I learned 5 years ago. So I genuinely, I think, here, I bought like Nutrition for Dummies, I'm not even lying, and like studied it really quickly and said, I'll do it. So Netflix took me on as like the official nutritionist of this show. You know, I think they've done all right. They made it through the things, but it was just one of them where it's just like, say yes to everything and then just figure it out later on.
I love that. I love it. I'm in the same boat. I agree to a lot, and then I have to 2 or 3 hours later go, oh man, how am I going to fit all this in here? It's tough. Kelly, you got any thoughts on this one?
So kind of speaking on what Alana had to say, and I think something that most entrepreneurs get asked often is like, how do you do it all? How do you do it all? Moms, especially, adding the kid factor in, adding kind of, I think moms tend to be the head of household these days. Maybe that's a bold statement, but that's, I guess, people I surround myself with tends to be that way. It's a choice. You choose to do all, and it's intrinsically a part of you. I have so many moving facets of my life, like so many different things, from hunting and backpacking and just wilderness to the equestrian world, and competitive and ranching, and just athletics, my children, my job, all of it. And when people ask, well, how do you do it all? I choose to do it all. All of these things are important because I know exactly who I am. And it's okay to not know who you are, but it's important to figure it out and be willing to evolve and grow into finding out exactly. And I agreed not to cuss, exactly who you are, and know it, and like embrace it, and then make your choices according. How do you do it all? I choose to do it all because I want to do it all. And if you don't want to, maybe take a look at what entrepreneurship is going to look like for you. And then remember, and I really talked about this earlier with the, being kind of a service entrepreneur, that it can be a bit of a sliding scale even. And that's okay to be on that sliding scale. But again, know yourself, to know when and what each is important to you, and for why. Like kind of like Sean was saying, that was old. This is where I am now. And being willing to allow yourself to evolve, because if you can't evolve, you cannot succeed. Like if you're doing the same thing 1 year, 5 years, 10 years from now that you did the day you started, you failed. You flat out failed. It's cold, hard fact. So be willing to evolve, know who you are, and know that when you have all of these things on your plate, and being the yes man, yes woman, like Alana was saying, do it because you choose to, and know that you'll figure it out, because you have, I say it all the time. One, I'm too stubborn and too stupid to quit. And I love both of those things about me. And two, I have just sheer blind confidence. I know I can figure out whatever I need to figure out to get whatever job done I need to get done that I agree to. But I know myself. So I think that's kind of like that driving factor of like, cool, we'll figure it out. Let's go. So know yourself and choose, like make that choice that's what you want. And even if you're unsure, start little, but don't stay stagnant. You have to evolve and grow and be willing to do so.
Yeah, I love that. I was actually just thinking about this earlier when we were talking about it, and the fact that I have many friends that are friends that I used to have for many years. We've had the same conversation for 10 years. And I'm just like, there's a point where you're like, yeah, I'm done having this conversation again. Let's do something else. Sayre, how about yourself?
Yeah. For me, I read a book by Michael Caine, the actor, years ago. And one thing that always stuck out to me is he said, everybody wants to be an actor. Everybody wants to be in movies. Everybody wants to, do the red carpet, but there's a lot of rejection. There's a lot of work behind the scenes. And it's like a, 1 in a million chance that you actually become an actor, that type of thing. And his quote, and I'll paraphrase, was, if you can imagine yourself doing anything else and being happy in life, do that. Because if you don't have an all in, like whatever it takes mentality with acting, it's not going to work for you. And that's how I view entrepreneurship, is that mindset, kind of going back to what Alana said, is you have to have the mindset of, I don't know what I don't know, or if an opportunity presents itself, you have to be able to say yes, even if you're not fully prepared. So a little bit different, I look at it a little bit different. is because opportunities come as an entrepreneur and you're like, yes, I can do this because I can figure it out. Being successful, in my opinion, is being resourceful and being willing to adjust. Kind of to Kelly's point, is you have to be flexible. Because another thing that I've heard a lot from entrepreneurs is what you start out as your business model or how it's going to work or how you're going to have your systems and protocols typically it ends up looking nothing like what you thought it was going to be. Because once you start doing it, you find, oh, that didn't work as I visualized in my head, or this is a new thing that I didn't even know was an opportunity for me. So having that flexibility and being okay with change is a big piece of it, as well as you have to do the work, whether you like it or not. And you guys on the collective talk about that so much, about how important mindset is. And if you don't have the mindset, if you're like, I want the glamorous, like the social media influencers, buy my program and you can be a successful entrepreneur, like Sean was saying, and in 30 days you can have 10,000 people in your email list and they're showing all these fancy cars and everything. And it's like, if it was that easy, wouldn't everybody be doing it? There's a little bit of that gimmick to it, and a little bit of like, there's days where, like Alana was saying with Dean, he's like, I don't want to do invoicing. I mean, there's times where I'll be like, oh, this is screwed up in the accounting software. I don't have somebody I can delegate to and say, hey, go fix that. It's like, no, guess what? Now I have to do a crash course and what the heck is going on? And I've got to call and I got to be put on hold. And there goes half my day of what I had planned to do. But I have to get this done, even if I don't like it. And that's where I'm at in life right now, is I don't have a big team that I can delegate to or say, you know what, I do not like doing social media marketing, but I have to figure it out. And I don't feel like I'm good at it, but I got to just do it and put it out there, because practice will, I'll improve with practice, or I'll get better with practice. And I think that's a big part of it, is you just have to have that mindset and that resilience and the grit and tenacity to get up every morning and be excited for it. You get to choose. Like Kelly said, I get to choose every day how to make my life the way I want it. And that's what I love about entrepreneurship. Even on the hard days, I remind myself is I get to choose how to make my day.
That is that's a beautiful point. We used a clip from Michael Caine talking about using the difficulty a little while ago in the gold mine, and it was such a great conversation. But we really got into, Michael Caine at one point was a brand new actor, still trying to figure stuff out, and he was being told by a director to do something that he hadn't thought of before, and so on and so forth. And now we look at him and like, oh, well, he's the great Michael Caine, but he was a beginner at one point. Sean, you got any thoughts on this?
I do. And so it goes to Alana's point, which was game ready, be game ready. I think any good entrepreneur is game ready. Like right now, let's freaking go right now. Now, not 2 minutes from now. Now, let's go. Let's do it. Where are we meeting? How fast do we have to go? What needs to get done? Game ready. You know what I've noticed over the last year and a half that I've been doing what I'm doing over here on the collective? People will hit me up and they'll say, hey, what do you think about coming on our podcast platform? Yeah, when? Well, how about in 2 minutes? Oh, no, we're not. The moment that I start hearing the stuttering and the backsliding, the backpedaling, I know that they're not game ready. What does game ready mean to me? If someone says, let's go, we're freaking going right then. Like not 7 days from now. Like now we're going. That is game ready. Game ready isn't let's think about things and let's take some time to think about the thinking. Game ready is now. And if you're not ready for now, it means that you're just not ready. Though a lot of people think they are. And so if you've never thought about your state of readiness as an entrepreneur, what you really need to do is take that game ready timeline and start shaving it down so that you're actually real-time responsive for all the yeses that you have to kick out. Yes, let's do it. Yes, let's go. Yes, I'm going to do that. Yes, I can do it. And then you start freaking figuring it out. If you're saying, If you're saying maybe or no more than you're saying yes as an entrepreneur, you're probably not an entrepreneur. Now, I'm not talking about fake it till you make it. I'm not talking about when someone hits you up with, hey, can we go do this thing? And you have zero idea about how to do it. You have zero faith in yourself. And you really feel like you don't want to get out of bed that day. Don't say yes. Because now you're screwing it up for someone else. But if you're an entrepreneur who believes in yourself and you've got a little bit of chops and you feel like you're going to be the right person for that initiative, event, moment, platform, whatever, if you're feeling like you can do it, but you're not sure if you've got it, well, frickin' say yes. Never say yes if you're screwing someone over. Say yes if you're kind of screwing yourself over a little bit, but you'll figure it out as you're moving down the track. So being game ready as an entrepreneur is so critical, but understanding the difference between telling yourself you're game ready and actually being game ready is a delta that's about this wide. And it's, you'll only understand how ready you are by how many yeses you can say now. Yes, let's do it. Frickin' yes. 2 minutes from now. Now. Let's go now. So that's food for thought. As you're moving along through your entrepreneurial pipeline, you've got a ton of things to figure out. I could barely spell social media. Now I'm trying to be better at it, which means that you got to learn a freaking ton of things. Before I became a high-performance race coach, I didn't know much about nutrition. Then one day, I was talking about nutrition every freaking waking minute of my life to hundreds of athletes around the world. That's what happens. You think you're not it, but then you become it because you drive towards it, because you've said yes to someone, because you want to serve someone, because you want to do the right thing as an entrepreneur for someone. It's going to take you in directions that you can never imagine. This is the definition of a true entrepreneur to me. When I sit down next to them and look them in the eye and say, what are you going to be doing in 10 years? If they shrug their shoulders and say, I have no idea, but it's going to be rad, they're an entrepreneur, because that's what it is. I don't know what I'll be doing 10 years. I barely know what I'll be doing a year from now. But as a maybe serial entrepreneur, then I've come to realize that as long as you are enjoying the game of being good in the game while trying to help others in the game with you, you'll do all right. But you'll never know what you're going to be doing 10 years from now.
This is it's funny because Kelly, I'll come to you in here in a second. Here is the my wife and I are very opposite in this. She is very much a planner. She likes to have things laid out. She likes to have things, this is how it's going to work, and then to follow that plan, come to the completion of that event or whatever it is, and done. Move on to the next one. Whereas I am a very sure, let's do it. Like when Sean came to me with the concept of the collective, he's like, this is what I have an idea of. Do you want to get involved? And I was like, yep, let's do it, because that's kind of who I am. I'm just, let's figure it out. I'll see how it works. When I started working with the Walk for Veterans, it was the same thing. We just got, here's an introduction. This is what we want to do. Do you want to be involved? Yes. And just due to the fact that I want to be involved. What that entails, what the work is, what all the positions and all that stuff is, we can figure out later. But my wife hates it because when we try to plan a trip, she's like, okay, so we're gonna go from here to here at this point in time, this timeline, and this is where, and I'm like, let's just jump in the car, we'll figure it out. She hates it. Kelly, what do you got? Let me rephrase. Sayre, what do you got?
I actually had a question for Sean. When you say game ready, can you define game ready? Because what I thought of when you said that is, I think, again, it comes back to mindset, is being able to saying yes and being okay with not being fully prepared, because you never quite know what it's going to be once you get into it, but having confidence in yourself to figure it out. So I was curious what you would define as game ready. And then my other part was for Chance, actually, when you just talked about being a planner versus being more of a spontaneous. To me, I I'm a planner. I love to plan, but for me, the differentiator is I'm okay if the plan changes last minute. Like I'm okay with the change. I don't get so stuck on my plan that I can't adjust on the fly. So that was, I don't know if anybody else had thoughts on that too. So I don't know if you want to go first, Chance, or Sean.
Let's go to Sean first. What do you think?
Sure. Game day for me is different now than it was 20 years ago or 30 years ago. And so I'm going to use Alana's commentary that started me off on this game day ready or game ready comment. And she'd mentioned someone, I believe you said Iron Cowboy. Quite a title, man. Wow. That'd make a great hat. So I don't know who he is or she is. But I do know that over the course of 100 of any hard things, maybe somewhere around 60 or 70 into it, you're starting to figure things out. And by the end of it, like around 100, you should be able to look at the person who sidles up next to you and says, are you ready to go for 101? You should just be able to look them in the eye and without even taking a breath, say yes. Because you know by 100 what it's all about. You know the cost. You know the sweat, blood, and tears. You know why you're doing it. When you're 12 runs in, all you know is 12 runs. You're still figuring things out. 60, 70, 80 later, you start figuring out who you are in that moment and why you're doing it. So 100 into anything, correction, 100 hard things into anything, you start to figure out why you're in it. And then you start to figure out whether you love it or hate it. And then you start to figure out, do I want more of it? So when I've done 100 of anything, when someone comes up to me and says 101's just around the corner, well, let's freaking go, bro. Why are you tying on your shoelaces now? You should have had them tied when you came up and asked me that question, because we're going now. Not on your time, on my time. You asked me the question, we're freaking going now. So game ready to me is now. But 20 years ago, it wouldn't have been. I would have had some liminal space in between my answer and the question, where I would have had to run the fuzzy math of, I've only ever done this once, or I've never done it before. And those are different moments, 100 plus versus 0. At the 0, I've got to run a bit of fuzzy math. But I can do it quick now. Back then, I didn't do it quite as quick. But to me, again, simple answer, game ready means I can instantly target lock something and say, execute.
Yeah, I love that. Alana, you got something?
Yeah, I do. So James, he started off by doing 50 Ironman. So he done 50 Ironman back to back throughout different states. And then he decided to do the 100. And Sean, he did do 101. And he done it because, for that very reason, he done the 100. He said to show that he could do 100. And then when the 100 day was done, he went, I'm going to do it on my own. Didn't take the recording cameras, the production. He was like, I'm doing this one for me. So he just went off and he done the 101. So that was him. And to Kelly's point, I think one of my jobs is a nonprofit consultant, and I do, a coaching plan, a year's coaching plan where we say, right, where are you right now? Where do you want to be? Okay, let's get you there. And in the contract, like literally in my contract, it has 2 things that are like non-negotiable. And the first one is you have to believe that we can do this. Like I can't work with somebody who doesn't believe that we can get there. And I always say to them, look, whatever it is, we can figure it out. But if you don't believe that we're getting there, I'm going to find it really, really difficult. So I really want you to check the contract, read it. We say, this is where you are today. This is where you want to be. And that's all in the contract. And the second thing is that they're willing to do the work to get there. So that's the only 2 things I require from them, is the belief and their willingness to put the work in. And I love that the transition period from that day one when we first speak and they're like, oh yeah, well, we're at this point at the minute, but the economy is really bad, or this cause isn't really in the focus right now, or there's, this million reasons. Okay, can you give me the belief that you want to get there? That's cool. And I think that's to Kelly's point on what is the game ready. It isn't that, as I say, like we're going to be able to like smash it all and beat it all right on this minute. It's that you're ready to take on that and be able to. I fully agree with Kelly as well that things are going to change. Things are always like, it's never going to happen like smoothly. But like when we were doing Dean's challenge, and it was Dean's going to cycle this bike 14,000 miles and he's going to get to the end. For Dean and I, it was like, right, here's the start line, here's the finish line. We're game ready because he's going to get to that finish line. All the other stuff that we're going to work out in between doesn't really matter, because all we know is the finish line's there. And it's funny when you talk to Dean, because Dean had day one, and then I think at the time when we booked it, it was 125 days was the record, then it changed to 117. So for Dean, it was always to get there before the 117 days. From the very first day that I started planning it with Dean, I had him coming in under 100 days, like fully, like I never once swayed from that in my mind. I even wrote 100 letters for him, so he would open a letter every single day on his ride. And he always said, like, he says it's because I'm Scottish and I wasn't willing to buy more envelopes for the letters, so I stopped at 100. But I knew I could get him in at 100, but I knew I had a way I had to do it very progressively. And all I needed him to know was, that's your start line, that's your finish line, and we're getting there. And the whole planning in between, we would work out. So agree with both on the idea of what game ready is, but I think it actually both means the same thing, is you're ready to pick up the shoes, and the rest we're just going to work out and adjust along the way.
Absolutely. Kelly, you got any thoughts on this?
So to kind of tie in, I guess this is the analogy I use for just a lot of different things, but when it comes to like hiking and hunting, I don't hike trails, I don't hunt trails. I hunt and hike mountain ranges. And a big part of that and being successful at doing it is knowing where you are without knowing exactly where you are. I know I'm in this mountain range. I know I'm on this mountain. I know I'm heading this direction with the goal of getting to this point. I don't know exactly when I look at, and I, old school, carry a hard copy map, not just my phone. I can look at that map and say, yeah, I'm here. I'm going here. I don't know exactly where I am there, but I know I'm getting here. And I think that's really a big, I mean, again, it's just another way of explaining kind of what Kelly said, is I have this plan. You're going from point A to point B. You know where you are and where you want to go, but you don't know exactly where you are and how you're going to get there. Like I might plan on taking this nice draw up and be, I don't know, 100 yards one direction or the other, and it's through sheer deadfall, and it's a lot harder than it has to be, but I'm still going to get there. And you just have to be willing to either, maybe you get that nice draw that's fairly clear and it's a nice hike up, maybe you get the deadfall, but you're going to get there no matter what. And that's, I think that's, I don't know, it seems like a pretty unanimous answer at the end of the day, just different ways of saying it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Especially when it comes to hunting, there's lots of times where you'll go, oh, there's a perfect animal right over there. You know what I'll do? I'm going to make this plan. I'm going to go around here. I'm going to go all the way upside, come in this way. The wind is going to be perfect. This is going to be awesome. You take one step on a branch, and animal's gone. Well, all right, let's reset, replan. So life happens, right? There's lots of this.
Yeah.
Kelly, I want to get into this as well. Is you talked about spontaneity versus planning, and I think this is a great key on this, in that there's lots of people out there that can just give her, right? They can just figure it out on the go, on the run, and make it work. But those that really want to develop to heights unknown, heights unseen, there has to be a level of planning. There has to be a level of engagement. I mean, Sean, I'm sure you have experience with this, right? As a former sniper and special operator, these kinds of things, where there has to be a general plan. It has to be a ballpark kind of deal, right?
General direction.
But how much can you plan for? Because we've talked about this before on other podcasts as well, is that being okay or being accepting of, you know, the world changing, or things happening, or your target not being where you thought they were. How much can you plan for? How much can you prepare for ahead of time? Or can it be just completely spontaneous? we'll start with Sean, then work our way around. What do you think?
Right on. So I'd like to establish two different characters right now. So that they're two polarizing characters. They're two very different characters, just to set the stage of what we're actually talking about as entrepreneurs. So I want you to, choose a character. Which one would you prefer to be? And then that will tell you about whether the entrepreneurial life is for you. So we're going to jump into the Lord of the Rings, into the movie. And it's the first movie of the 3-movie series. We've just walked into the Prancing Pony, the tavern. And that's where Aragorn is hanging out in the back shadows. That's where the hobbits are flippity-flopping around with their big hairy feet, making fools of themselves. That's where we've got like some characters at the bar. That's where we've got the barkeep. That's where we've got all of the things going on in the Lord of the Rings. And so, which one do you want to be? Do you want to be the barkeep who gets to hang out in his place where it's warm, there's music, there's a crackling fire, there's food, you're pouring all the beers, you're having fun, you're chirping back and forth. Every day is like a party to some degree. Now I know there's lots of work as a barkeep. You've got to mop the floors, you got to do the toilets, you got to do all the things, inventory, etc. I know. I used to be a coffee shop owner. But that role as the barkeep is way different than being a freaking hobbit who's completely unqualified to get to Mount Doom. That's the difference between entrepreneurial life and regular, I'll call it, workday life or corporate life or a life that is known. The barkeep knows what he's going to be doing 10 years from now. He's going to be swilling beers and having fun, chirping with his buddies. It's like Cheers, the bar. But as the hobbit, you don't know what you're going to be sleeping in that night. A ditch, a hedgerow, a frickin' swamp with Gollum. You just don't know. And if you're not right with heading towards Mount Doom and not knowing how to get there, but knowing that it's important and also knowing that it's going to suck a lot, if you're not okay with that, entrepreneur life ain't for you. Hanging out in the warm, crackling fire tavern is okay for a lot of people. But it ain't okay for me. It's not that I like sleeping in ditches, but I do love the hardship of sleeping in a ditch. Hardship is something that you got to wrap your head around as an entrepreneur. The unknown, the adventure of entrepreneurial life is what drives a lot of my life. I love a good adventure, man. It's not that I need to burn a ring in Mount Doom, but I do like the idea of trying to save the world in my own little way, in a way that I don't understand yet, just because I'm an adventurous little hobbit, not a beer-swilling tavern operator.
At the moment, at least. There was a time. Sayre, any thoughts on this?
I love the analogy. I think that's so true of the Hobbit. There's that to me is that every day is the same. And I could see that when I did have jobs, is that I knew when I was done, if I was like, okay, I've done everything now and I'm not challenged anymore. And so that reaffirmed that I did want to be an entrepreneur someday. And I think to me, the hardest part was not knowing or not having the timing right, because the reality was, having kids, being married, you come together and you make sacrifices or choices. And at that time it was like, okay, well, we can't afford for me not to have a steady income, until we got to a point, kind of going back to what Sean was saying with his wife, that's really important. And now, for me, it resonated, the Hobbit analogy of like, just sleep in a ditch. Great. I'm going to look at it as like, I choose this to what path. That's exciting. And there's a lot of people that'll look and say, when you reach the top, will say, man, I want that. I want to do that. I want to succeed. But what they didn't see was all the sleeping in the ditches and the blisters on your feet and the nights when it was raining and you were cold, miserable, and you weren't at the top. And if you're not okay with that unknown and that hardship, If that doesn't motivate you, if that is something that you're just like, nope, I would rather stay in the warm bar by the crackling fire, that's completely okay. But just recognize and be honest with yourself that that's not who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Kelly, thoughts on this? The mute gremlin strike again. I'll come back to you in a second. Alana, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think I've never seen any of the Lord of the Rings, so forgive me.
Oh my goodness.
Don't cut me off. Don't cut me off. But when you were telling the story, I was very much picturing it in my head, and I was going through it. And actually, as you're telling the story, I want both. It's always been a little dream of mine to have my own little bar. The amount of bars I did work in, and the first bar I ever actually bought, I bought it for a specific reason because my mom used to clean it, and I used to remember my mom. You know, we would drive down and I would sit in the car and she would go in and do her shift, or we'd come inside the bar while she was cleaning it, and then we'd come out and then we'd do. Normally mom would take us when we were very young to any of her cleaning jobs. She would take us around because there was no sitters or anything. And you know, I used to know how hard she worked for like £3 an hour, if that, at the time, you know, and she would do all this stuff. So I deliberately bought that bar so that I could demolish it, and it was great fun doing it. Like really literally went in with my hammer myself and things and done it. But I think when I was thinking about it, when you were talking about it, Sean, it was the responsibility. I felt like if I was in that bar, even if I was the one climbing the mountain, I'd still be thinking, like, how's that fire going to keep burning? Like, where do we need to get the logs from for that? And we need to get the food, and how do we get the food out? And are we going to do that? I was thinking about that as you were saying it. So for me, it's almost like responsibility never really leaves my mind. Like, no matter what we're doing or where we're going, I'm always thinking about what I would do. I'm the kind of person that never just come to me to put your, you know, for a shoulder to cry on and tell me your problems, because I'm going to be fixing them. I'm going to be working out how we're going to fix those problems as you're telling me. So if you just want somebody to vent with, I'm probably not the greatest person. And you know, this last few weeks, I had an operation a couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, in fact, but my best friend was getting married in New York and I had other business that I needed to do. So I had the operation and kind of set myself like, you have to get out of bed now. Now you have to do this. And even though I was like, I don't want to, I'm tired, I'm in pain. Okay, I need to stop taking the painkillers because we're flying in 2 days. I need to do this, and I'm working it through. And then we done the wedding at the weekend, and then we came back on Tuesday. And then yesterday, I just ended up super sick. I think I probably just pushed myself to an utter limit, and I was in so much pain, and I just kept throwing up all day just with the pain because I wasn't taking. But I had 3 very important meetings, and one of them was around a human trafficking thing. So I 100% knew that I couldn't miss it, but I also knew that I had to be game ready for the conversation, and I had to be there for the person that I was talking to. It was a trafficking victim. So so the whole time she was sitting speaking, and I was like, I'm going to throw up. The pain is like actually killing me right now, but I've got to keep, focused and keep with her and be on this. And literally the minute I came off the phone, it was like straight through and just vomit. But I think that comes all the way back to that. This is the entrepreneurial life, that it's like that, and there's nothing sexy about it, and there's nothing glamorous about it. I don't know if anybody's hit the glamorous stage yet. I've not quite hit that moment yet, but there's not a thing I would actually change about it. I just love every single step, and whether I'm the bar owner or whether I'm climbing the mountain, I love everything about it, even the yucky, horrible, cold, painful, vomit-fueled days. I love it.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Similarly, last week we were getting set up for a podcast, and I woke up and I was hurling my guts out. I contacted Sean immediately, and I'm like, "Hey, man, just so you know, I'm really sick. I'm gonna be relying on you quite a bit." And I had a puke bucket right beside my podcast studio, like it was right beside my chair, just in case. And it came. There were a couple times I was pretty close, so I feel your pain on that one. It's an interesting point of view when you have to sit there with a puke bucket beside you while you're trying to be, yes, indeed. Kelly, you got any thoughts on this?
I do. I really like what Alana was saying, because I think that's overlooked. Don't get me wrong. I truly believe, depending on the person, going back to your question, how much needs to be planned, or can it all be done on spontaneity? there are certain people who can straight fly by the seat of their pants and just wham, bam, bam, and they have it in them. There are other people, and I do believe both can be successful entrepreneurs that really plan things out. I think the only differentiation is, I believe we might have even talked about this the last time I was on the gold mine, but have to, regardless of if you are just a total, like we're going seat of the pants, or we are creating a blueprint and then obviously always adjusting, is having that rugged flexibility and the willingness to kind of do either when the time calls for it. I think in a true successful business, there is time where you really have to plan maybe more than you want to, or at least kind of get like the devil in the details, maybe more than you want to, but they're necessary. And there's other times where you can just, I mean, you have an idea, roll with it. We'll figure it out. So I think either can be really successful. You have to know yourself, and then you just have to have that rugged flexibility no matter what. Like, I'll be flexible, things are going to change, but be like fierce about it. Like, oh no, we're figuring it out now. Like, I am rugged. It's more like, it's that, well, tenacious, right? Like, tenacious is the key factor in people being successful in life, regardless of what they go through. So I think whether you're a big planner, you have to be really flexible. Whether you are totally spontaneous, still be willing to be really flexible, and you really can't fail.
Yeah, absolutely. This is it goes right into kind of what my final question here is for everything we've been talking about. In that, I saw this great little cartoon. Actually, it was on like a drawn cartoon. I think it was in a newspaper originally, but it was about comparison. And I want to get into this in terms of being an entrepreneur, because you look on social media and it's very easy to compare what you're doing to the world, right? And the highlight reel that is social media. And the cartoon was basically this, there's a guy standing at a bus stop and he's looking at a guy on a bike saying, man, I wish I had a bike. And then the guy on the bike was looking at a guy in a car, and the guy, man, I wish I had a car. And then the guy in the car was wandering around like, man, I really wish I had that family over there that was hanging out by themselves. And then the family guy was like, and it just goes around in this giant circle of everyone comparing what they want to what everybody else has. And so I want to ask you guys this, in the fact of how important is it, or how have your mindset changed over the years in understanding and accepting what you have, even the difficulties, to the point of what Sean said of, like, sleeping in the ditch. Yeah, it's great, you're sleeping in a ditch, but there are people out there not sleeping, right? And if you're sleeping in a bed at the Prancing Pony, that's great, but there are people that are sleeping in the palace. And so there's a way to compare upwards and say, hey, that's what I want. But there's also a way to negatively compare upwards and say, man, I wish I had that. But do you really want that? Because you're not there, right? You're not doing the things that are required for that. So I want to get your guys' thoughts on where you guys sit now, and has that changed over the years in terms of your comparison to others, or your comparison to the goals that you want in life. Kelly, actually, I'm going to start with you. What do you
think? That's an awesome question. And I think your verbiage actually said it all. The difference in a positive comparison that can level you up to the comparison that can just eat you alive is the I want versus I wish. I want means I'm going to go get it. I want means I can figure out how to make it happen. And I admire that. And that can be a positive thing. I admire what they're doing. I admire their tenacity. I want that. I'm going to figure out how to get it. Saying I wish is essentially a poor me. I wish I had that. And it implies that I don't have it. I'm not going to have it. I can't get it. And it's a backdoor for feeling sorry for yourself. And I am so anti-comparison. And maybe it kind of stems from, again, I know who I am. I know what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. I don't think I'm the best. I'm always willing to learn. I'm excited to learn. I look forward to it. But I know why I'm doing what I'm doing, and I know why it matters. So I don't care what anyone else is doing. Now, if someone is doing something similar or has an idea that, what's the saying? It's you'll never be judged by someone doing more than you. someone doing more than you it's still working. They have their own stuff going on. So if you're looking at those people and excites you, I don't really consider it comparison. I consider it that admiration and that curiosity on how do I get there. Comparison in itself really is just a negative. I wish for me, they're doing this and I'm not. And that to me is what comparison is. And I have no space for it. And I just never have. And I think it's just because I have that blind confidence that if I want something, I'm going to go get it. I'm going to figure it out. I don't really know where that comes from, to be honest, but I hope my kids get it. I hope everyone I work with gets it. But yeah, your verbiage of I wish versus I want, wishing you have something gets you nowhere. Wanting it and working for it is everything. It's the magic.
Yeah. I think your kids are going to get it because they're watching you do it every day. So don't worry. I'm sure that's coming in. Kelly, Sayre, thoughts on this?
Yeah. The comparison thing, I know for me, what I immediately thought of is there's moments that I'll catch myself seeing something on social media or reading something. And if I catch myself, to Kelly's point, saying, oh, I wish I was there already, I'm like, whoop, okay, we need to stop because you need to get back to focused on what do you want. And I also go, the more somebody has to tell me who they are, what they have, the less I believe them. And that applies in many different avenues. But the more somebody's trying to show off their fancy cars or show off their fancy houses or promote this facade of I'm a super successful entrepreneur, you know, that's just not me. That's not what resonates with me. So then I don't give that much more of my attention. Is I actually, there's a saying, you know, if you want something done, go to the busy people that they're so busy, they're not worried about posting updates about what they're doing and where they are. They're just doing the work. And so to me, if I catch myself getting caught up in that comparison, is it's like, well, then I'm not actually focused on just doing the work. Like just put your nose down, you know, and get the work done. And then you won't have time to worry about what anyone else is doing or what successes they're having or not. Because so often once you dig into it a little bit more, you're like, oh, now that I know the details, like that wasn't all real, you know, or it's a very superficial type of success, or it's a very temporary, it's a short-term success where I'm not looking to, you know, be an overnight success. I'm playing the long game, you know, because I believe in the work that I do. And I want to help people, kind of going back to the service, but I want to make money doing it because that gives me more power to reach more people, to do more good in the world. And so it's like, nope, just do the work, focus on the long game. Don't worry about what anyone else is doing, because I'm unique in the way I speak to it, the way I talk to it is unique. And so if I can just trust my intuition and focus on myself and doing the right things, then that's going to resonate with the right people. And keep trying.
Absolutely. Alana, thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what Kelly said about not being the smartest person in the room. I was at an event recently where I met with a robot, Sophia the robot she was like the first humanoid AI-powered robot who's just like a person, and you know, you can talk to them, and it was great. No small talk, no nothing. You could just literally ask a question and she gives you a really straightforward. I really feel like I could be her best friend, to be honest. But it goes back to the comparison is working out. Is it jealousy? Is it admiration? Ambition? You know, which one are we thinking about here? You know, like I'm thinking, like, I'm looking at Kelly's arms, for example, and both your arms are amazing, but like I can see this and I'm like, oh, I wouldn't mind arms like that. I could do that, right? But am I willing to put the work in? Am I willing to go and do those things? I'm not entitled to have arms like hers. I don't deserve arms like hers. I'm not working, but I can have it if I was to say, okay, I'm going to go and do this now and I'm going to work for it and I'm going to put everything in. So it's, you know, you can be like, I can have admiration and I think the jealousy bit is where the negativity comes in and the nastiness comes in, and well, that's not fair. Why have they got that and I haven't? And, you know, I think it's this there is a bit of a generation right now of entitlement and feeling like they deserve something. And I think if we could drop that from our minds completely and say, actually, no, you're not entitled to it and you don't deserve it. You don't deserve love. You don't deserve to be an entrepreneur. You don't deserve all these things. You have to work on whatever it is that you're really, really craving and you're really desiring. You have to work on it. But then you also then have to take a step back and say, okay, I really love Kelly's arms. They're amazing. But I'm fully grateful for the fact that I've got two arms that work and that I've got two arms that are flexible and that they're still there and they're still attached to my body. And like having that every single day, having gratitude for everything that you do have, understanding what you want and what you're willing to work for and going for that, understanding what you see in other people and admire, but you're maybe not willing to work for it. So just be like, well done, you're amazing. Love it. And one day I might want to work for that. So I'm going to use you as my little go-to for it. And then making sure that when the ambition kicks in, that you are ready to take those steps, but keeping those things in that positive environment, I think is, and we do throw positive around a lot, but I feel like when people do have that kind of jealousy and that I want that and I want, and that entitlement comes out, I think that's when it all becomes really bad. I think for people that have that entrepreneurial mindset, they don't think like that. They think like, okay, is this something that I want? Is it something that I'm going to go for? And that's why we're the dumbest person in the room, because we're looking at people that we're going, I'm going to be like you and I'm going to work out how to do it and I'm going to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. Sean, thoughts on this?
Yeah, entrepreneurial lifestyle, your life. If you take your whole life and consider yourself as you're now dedicated to being a full-time entrepreneur till the day you die, you'll never be happy at the end of your life if you bought your way to success. You can only earn your way to success. Earning is the only way, not purchasing. And earning means hard freaking work. If you earn your success, you'll be proud of what you've created at your end of days. If you bought your way to success, that just doesn't sit well with me. And anyone that I've ever talked to regrets that they took the shortcut, regrets that they took the hack. The magic is in the sweat. The magic is in the tears. The magic is in earning it, not buying it. You want a fancy car? Earn it. Don't take it on credit. You want a fancy suit? Frickin' wash dishes until you can afford to buy one. Don't put it on layaway credit and then walk out of the store like you just invented the world. Earning versus faking is how I look at it as an entrepreneur. Any entrepreneur worth their salt has scars, is dehydrated from the sweat, blood, and tears. And that is just the way it is. And all of the internet, social media, feel-good stories where you want to be them, chances are them didn't really earn it. They bought it. If they're that much of a flash in the pan, it was probably purchased, not sweated towards it. So know who you are and know what you want, and then be prepared to do that for several decades, and you'll be happy.
Yeah, that is a great point. I keep thinking every so often I see these online, and it's like a 19-year-old kid who's just like, I'm a new coach and I can give you all the information and I'm going to make you successful. You can make $10,000 a week in passive income. You don't have to do it. I'm like, because you as a 19-year-old know so much, because I knew so much as a 19-year-old, right? It's kind of crazy. Now we are just about 2 hours here, and I really just want to say thank you guys. It's been a fantastic conversation. I have learned a ton about entrepreneurship and what it takes in order to be successful. And we are 400 some odd podcasts in now after a year and change, and we're not slowing down. We're not stopping by any means. We're going to keep on trucking every single day. So I just want to say thank you guys so much for joining us on this conversation. Let's get some final thoughts throughout on anything that we've covered so far, or anything still bubbling in the back of your brain on entrepreneurship, and then we can shut it down for the afternoon, because I actually have to run. I got a 5-hour trip to go branding, so This is going to be a fun day. Kelly, Sayre, let's start with you. Final thoughts.
Final thought, it kind of goes back to Sean's post on Instagram before we started this. Entrepreneurship is what I see so often is people quit, before they're reach their goals, or they do give up. And that's tough, because there's a part of, I think, a normal mentality that this is not working. So I should just quit and go get a job. And trust me, I joke about that on the hard days. I'm like, that's it. I'm going to go work for McDonald's. Nothing that, not saying there's anything wrong for getting any type of job if you need to pay the bills, but there's days where it's like, but you know what? I chalk it up to, that was a difficult day. What did I learn? And what am I going to do tomorrow to take the next step? And so I think in life in general, if you can have that mindset, it's gonna help you. And especially if you're an entrepreneur, is accepting that there's the hard days and saying, what do I want at my core? And if what you believe in, why you started your business, and you're listening to all of you talk, everyone on this call talk about their passion, you can hear it, and that's where I was saying that's what the entrepreneurship journey is about, is if you just can't imagine doing anything else, then go for it and don't quit. Do whatever you have to do. If you have to get a side job, you start and you ran out of money. Okay, but don't quit. Get a side job, sell something, but don't go into, don't buy the fancy car and go into huge amounts of debt just because you're trying to show that you're an entrepreneur.
I love that. Absolutely. Kelly, what are you thinking? Final thoughts?
I actually really like how she had said, Kelly had said, hey, don't quit. If you have to get another job, go get another job. And one of the greatest piece of advice, I was blessed to kind of just jump from the plane. But for people considering entrepreneurship and they have this passion and this fire burning inside of them, I know there's like a lot of pressure, and I think social media probably plays into it. I'm sure that like you just have to jump, you just have to go. I think it is perfectly acceptable to stay on the plane while you pack your parachute. Like nothing wrong with that. And you're not on anyone else's timeline. You're really not even on the timeline you think you have. We've all learned that one way or another. So just remind yourself, it's okay to stay on the plane while you pack your parachute, but don't lose the passion. Keep the fire going. And then take that leap when you are ready. You don't owe anyone else anything. There is no perfect anything. So just, trust your gut. And I think that's probably one of the greatest pieces of advice is, you. So do what you need to do in that regard.
Absolutely. Love it. Alana, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I would say that if you're looking for the inspiration, it's great to Instagram and all that. It's got its tools, but this is a blood, sweat, and tears type of life. And if you're looking at someone who's on there, and 100%, when I see them, I think, how, you've got your full makeup done, your hair's done, your nails done, you look absolutely. I'm not going to curse, but no, real entrepreneurs look like this. On the constant. It's like, nothing, you haven't got time to do anything, you haven't got time to preen, there's nothing, we're at it on the constant, and this is what it should be like. And you're tired, and it's hard work, and it's nonstop, but like literally when you do that and you feel like that, but you would never have it any other way, then you're on your right path.
I love that. Sean, any final thoughts?
How interesting. As an entrepreneur who's a hard charger and want to be the best version of themselves, we don't have time. Except we're making time right now, to serve our fellow man for free, by the way. I mean, someone out there is probably going to make the argument that the reason that we're on here is to sell another t-shirt, or to sell a book, or to sell a house, or sell a horse. But I ain't here for that, and I don't think anyone else is here for that reason. We're over here just trying to be helpful. give our opinions or our life experiences or our advice on what it means to be an entrepreneur and why it's good and why sometimes it's hard. We're just putting out advice for our fellow man. And so entrepreneurial life is not all about money. It's not all about service. Sometimes it's moving back and forth between the two, as we are doing right now. So we've made the case that it's super duper hard. And if you're going to be successful in it, it's super duper hard squared. But here we are doing it for free, not for fun, but for free to be helpful. So never lose sight of this fact. If you're fully focused on making money as an entrepreneur, defocus some of your time just to throw a bone to your fellow man. And I think you'll find you'll learn a lot more about yourself, and you'll learn a lot more about how to be an entrepreneur in a more positive way.
Yeah. I have very little to add to this other than the fact that I think jiu-jitsu probably taught me this the most. And that is, you either win or you learn. And that's it. There's no loss. The only real loss is when you stop training. It's when you stop going. It's when you stop working, when you stop trying to do the thing that you think you're meant to do. And that's really what that's what I'm going to take from this throughout, is that in the entrepreneurship game, I either win or I learn. And that there is no such thing as a quit in this. There's no such thing as failure until I quit. So I'm not going to quit anytime soon. Sean, you're hopefully not going to quit anytime soon. And we're going to keep working every single day to continue to learn, build, and grow. And that's everything I got. Well, hopefully we'll see y'all next week. Chimo, everybody.
Chimo.